Hi, this is Tim Davis with DoControl. I want to tell you a little bit more about how DoControl is continuing the evolution that we've seen throughout the security space. Think about it. Antivirus became EDR, and we brought many more capabilities and more protection to users on endpoints. The same thing happened in identity, where we evolved from just credentials to full identity provider solutions and conditional access and all the capabilities that the modern IDP platform brings to a security technology suite. We think about how secure web gateways, zero trust network access, have evolved into SASE or SSE. Same thing has happened in the infrastructure as a service space, where cloud protections like CSPM and CIEM and workload protections have all evolved into the cloud native application protection platforms. Same thing needs to happen in SaaS. For software as a service, we need the same kind of evolution and ability to protect our different platforms inside our SaaS platforms. And so we're seeing that with the SaaS Security Platform. DoControl is out here building the very first SaaS Security Platform. It's going to include data access control. It's going to include, of course, data protection, shadow IT, those shadow apps, the SaaS to SaaS connections that are a key part of protecting your data, protecting your users, protecting that information in those SaaS platforms, as well as the posture, the SaaS security posture management, the configuration and controlling for that attack surface as well. Then there's the reviewing how data is accessed, and then of course anomaly detection. When are things going wrong, and what do we need to do to fix them? So let's look at specifically one of the use cases that's key for DoControl, and this has to do with our event-driven architecture. I mentioned that we're evolving the SaaS security space, and that's key here. Rather than relying on proxies or relying the traditional on the traditional API delayed approach, we have an event-driven approach, which means that when something happens in the SaaS application, we can respond to it right away. For example, in this use case we're looking at here, someone shares a file in Microsoft SharePoint. That comes to us right away. Now we can actually customize a response based on the context, because we understand what's going on in SaaS. We understand how SaaS is supposed to be used. We understand how this particular user and this particular SaaS tenant are being used. Because we understand all that context right away, we can make an immediate decision to protect any data that needs protecting. In this case, let's look at this example. When someone shares that file in SharePoint, we're going to look to see, is that user a high-risk user? It could be that we interface with the EDR platform. It could be that we learn this from identity provider. It could be that this is our innate anomaly detection. Multiple factors go into play, but ultimately it comes down to a binary choice of a threat crossing a threshold. Did this user do enough to be considered high risk? If they're high risk, it could even be something as simple as they've turned in their notice. They're getting ready to walk out the door. Whatever it is, they're high risk. We're going to unshare the file that they shared. We're going to protect the data. We're going to stop the data from being able to move outside the organization before it ever happens. Then, of course, we're going to notify security, and we're going to as well create an incident. If it's not high risk, if it's business as usual, they're sharing with trusted domains, then let's just wait 30 days. Let's send that user a nice message and ask them, hey, do you still need to share? This again is just protecting data. Security doesn't even have to be involved here. Just protecting that data from being shared forever and making sure it's only shared outside the organization for the length of time that it's needed. And then, if we think about this as a high risk use case, medium risk, or low risk use case, something in the middle, let's maybe don't stop the business. Let's allow sharing for a domain that we don't recognize, but let's start asking questions of that user, of their manager, of the business security officers, of the InfoSec team. Let's go get the right set of eyeballs on this so that we can decide if this is business appropriate or not, and then automate taking the appropriate action for that. So this automates the ability to protect your SaaS data. At the same time, it takes all of that context into play so that you're not having to have human intervention go over and over again into figuring out these problems. What we're finding is that over 90% of these SaaS data protection solutions can be automated if we understand the context, which is what DoControl does, and if you're able to respond quickly enough, which DoControl is, thanks to our event-driven architecture. Thanks for giving us some time to tell you about DoControl today.